What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, happy Zelda Day. Of course, Tears of the Kingdom is out today, and yesterday reviews went live, and on one side it appears that the new Zelda game has actually made history. We'll talk about that here today. Also, we are going to be taking a look at some quotes from Sharp, who may have inadvertently told us that they are working to help manufacture the next Nintendo platform. And we also have a game, big time title, that may have been leaked a bit early, or maybe we're all just getting trolled. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Call of Duty 2023. This was a game that really at the end of last year was kind of in flux as to what exactly it would be. Now, though, it is becoming pretty clear that it will be another premium title, one that would be sold separately, not necessarily just as an expansion to Modern Warfare 2. And now we have some information when it comes to the title and some of the contents, which you can see this posted up over on Insider Gaming, who says that Insider Gaming sources have revealed that this year's Call of Duty title will be called Modern Warfare 3, not exactly trying to reinvent the wheel there on the naming. It is primarily being developed by Sledgehammer. However, a bunch of other studios that work on Call of Duty are also running support, which is typical now at Activision, who has very quickly become basically a Call of Duty developer. But there was a bit more information here that includes a full campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and a new Warzone 2 map that'll debut during the title's first season. So exciting stuff, certainly for Call of Duty fans who weren't really sure what they'd be looking at with this year's Call of Duty. It looks like it's just going to be a whole nother Call of Duty game, but of course, playing off of Modern Warfare 2, I assume continuing that story, and including zombies, which is probably one of the most popular parts about Call of Duty, is exciting stuff there. So it appears we're looking towards a November release for that, which means we'll probably be seeing some closed and open betas happen in the months prior. Also, here's an interesting discovery that was made for Tears of the Kingdom, and it has to do with the engine that it's running on. This was posted up by Oatmeal Dome over on Twitter, who says, in a surprising twist, it appears Tears of the Kingdom is actually built on the engine used by Nintendo Switch Sports and Splatoon 3. Now, they did kind of discuss this a bit further, saying it doesn't really mean much for people who are just playing the game, but in terms of the game's internals, it looks quite different compared to Breath of the Wild. They go on further to clarify that the best name they have right now for this engine is Module System. It is interesting, though, because Splatoon 3 and Switch Sports were the other two games that have used AMD FSR, and it kind of lines up with what we're seeing with Tears of the Kingdom. But it also goes to show what you can do with these engines, specifically the ones that Nintendo develops internally and how they're able to use it a wide range of games. And obviously, the game engine is just kind of used to make the game run and all the different features, but the fact that Switch Sports and Tears of the Kingdom share the same engine is pretty mind-blowing stuff there. Oh, and we're roughly 1 month away from Summer Game Fest, which should be really exciting, especially after the partners were posted up over on Jeff Keighley's Twitter account. We can see the big image here, and yeah, they have quite a few. I said about 40 or so partners that will be taking part in Summer Games Fest for the different activities, whether it's games that'll be demoed in kind of the I guess the press event, or games that'll just be shown during their stream. And I mean, PlayStation's in there, Xbox, Square Enix, WB, Ubisoft, Sega. I mean, the list really goes on and on and on here. They are missing Nintendo, so I guess of the console manufacturers, 2 of the 3 are there at least, but it does look like Jeff Keighley is putting together a packed show for Summer Game Fest, and you'd kind of expect that now more than ever, considering E3 is basically folded for this year and may never return. So if you have 1 or 2 games that you want to showcase, you'll probably go to Summer Games Fest. So I am getting excited for the show, but as usual, I am keeping my expectations somewhat in check. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and it's out today, but yesterday reviews went live, and it was absolute mayhem when this started to happen, because at first, when reviews started going up, there was like 30 or 40 of them, and the game was sitting at a 98. And I saw that, I said, wow, I might have been wrong thinking it could match Breath of the Wild. It might exceed Breath of the Wild, but more and more review scores started coming in, and it was sort of averaging down a bit. It did go to 97, and now, as you can see here on Metacritic, currently sitting at a 96. That's on 87 critic reviews. It has been jumping between 96 and 97, and the fact that Breath of the Wild had over 100 reviews, it's possible that more reviews come in and push this up to a 97. It could still technically fall to a 95, but I kind of think more than likely it's sitting at the score it will remain at with a 96. So 1 point below Breath of the Wild. But as I've mentioned, the fact that we've gone 6 years, expectations continue to go up every single year. This essentially being right there with Breath of the Wild is impressive stuff for a sequel to that game, which I will tell you now, many studios and companies would be very nervous attempting. And well, here's Zelda team and Al Numa and everyone turning in, I would say, a pretty good entry here. If we look at the critic splits, 86 positive and 1 mixed, and there are a lot of perfect scores in here. I believe IGN gave it a perfect score, but even just a glance at Metacritic, Pocket Tactics, Checkpoint Gaming, Telegraph, all with the perfect 10 out of 10. Now, there was one review that caused some controversy, and that was Gfinity, who gave it a 60 or a 6 out of 10. And as soon as I saw that review go up, I was like, ooh, that's good luck to them, because I saw some wild stuff back in the day with Breath of the Wild when there were reviews that were basically anything under a 9. They got hit pretty hard. But I do want to say this, as people are looking at that 60 out of 100 and saying they're just being contrarian, if you read the review, it actually makes sense, considering they weren't really big fans of the direction for the Zelda series with Breath of the Wild. They go to Tears of the Kingdom thinking maybe they would have altered or changed some stuff that they would enjoy, and it still kind of came in as, well, it's not really something that I'm enjoying, so I'm going to give it the 6 out of 10. So in that sense, I actually think it fits in as someone who didn't like Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is probably not going to work out for them then, and that probably applies to many people out there, and I have spent some time with it now, several hours actually yesterday, as I did get it on the Australian eShop to get started a bit early, and the game is really good, at least in the first, 6 or 7 hours now. It definitely pulled me in, even from the tutorial area, which doesn't even really feel like that. It was massive. And then you jump off and it's like, wow, there's a ton of stuff still to explore. So yeah, the game coming in at a 96, maybe even 97, not too surprising. But I did mention there was some history that was made on a website, and that's actually OpenCritic. In fact, if you go over to the best reviewed games, like of all time, Tears of the Kingdom has now taken the top spot. That's ahead of Super Mario Odyssey. Not by much. It's like by, I think, less than half a point or something, because they have the averages. They go out to the decimal points and all of this. But it is at number 1, above Mario Odyssey, that above Breath of the Wild, Red Dead Redemption 2, and then Elden Ring as the top 5. So overall, impressive stuff here for the Zelda team and Nintendo to have this swan song be reviewed so well. And let's face it, it's probably the front runner for Game of the Year. I know we're only in May and there's still like more than half a year in front of us, but it's going to be hard to top a 96 or 97 in general. And of course, a lot of the positive press and praise this game is getting right now. But something tells me we still have a lot of good games in front of us. And like I said before, 2023 shaping up to be a pretty good year in gaming. Next up, let's talk about Sharp and how they may have inadvertently told us that they are working with Nintendo to create their next platform, or the follow-up to the Switch. This posted up by VGC, citing Bloomberg. They said in an earnings call on Thursday, Sharp CEO Robert Wu said the Japanese electronics company will launch the pilot LCD panel production lines for the new device during its current fiscal year ending in March 2024. Okay, they say, I can't comment on any details regarding specific customers, but as to a new gaming console, we've been involved in its R&D stage. I wonder what new console would be using an LCD from Sharp. That's hard to say. Obviously, the front runner here is whatever Nintendo has up next, which we all assume they're going to stick with that hybrid model, but Nintendo does weird things sometimes, so maybe they feel the need to not necessarily trap themselves in the hybrid model kind of box and want to venture out and do something really weird, and oh wait, we'll keep the Switch as this other system that we have. Basically, yes, going back to a 2-tier setup, but I still believe the correct assumption at this time is that they will stick with what they have right now with the Switch and just make a better version, maybe with a mild twist on it. Now, LCDs, I'm curious what kind of panel they'd be using then, because it doesn't sound like it'd be OLED, which would be a real shame if they don't go that route, because I've seen the OLED right now, the current Switch. It's not much going back to that older LCD. Now, they do mention March 2024 as when they would essentially be providing these panels. Very possible that it goes into production around that time. Not necessarily that the entire system is launching then, because remember, there are months and months of manufacturing and production before they're ready for the system to launch. And Sharp would, of course, be invoicing and getting their money as these screens are rolling out to the factories to build the system. Now, I do also want to point out one other possibility, okay? It could be maybe Sony's remote handheld. Remember, it's been rumored for a little while now that Sony would be providing their own cloud handheld that would more or less just be a remote play device for the PlayStation 5 that would also need an LCD. So unless Xbox is working on their own handheld device, which who knows, I guess it's always possible, it's most likely going to be for either Sony or Nintendo, and at this point, I'd be leaning more towards Nintendo, which, if anything, most likely will at least confirm, or at least verify, that they'll be sticking with that hybrid model setup, or maybe just go full-on handheld. Who knows? It's Nintendo. We'll probably see next year in 2024. Next up, let's talk about a big-time release for 2023 that had leaked a while ago on a conference call from WB, but now it appears to have leaked further, where we have basically all the details we need, at least we think. We can see this posted up over on Bill, who says, upcoming release exclusive, the next Mortal Kombat game from NetherRealm Studios, WB Games, will be called Mortal Kombat 1. I wonder if it's just going to be called Mortal Kombat and not have the 1 on the end, although they could brand it and do some things with the logo. Maybe that's like Mortal Kombat has a big slash down the middle or something between the two words, but this playing into the idea of it, yes, indeed being a reboot. But look at the platforms: PC, PS5, Xbox Series S, X, and Nintendo Switch. In fact, the Switch version will also be $60 as opposed to $70 for the PS5 and the Xbox Series. And of course, there's a premium edition and then a collector's edition that will probably have some sort of statue to go along with it. But this being a reboot, I think is pretty exciting. And if you look over with Jez Corden, who had some more details around this, corroborating Bill's post saying it is a reboot, September 2023 launch window is what they're hearing, so we're not too far off, really. And the character pass includes Peacemaker and more. So this is all really exciting stuff. The idea of kind of taking things back to the beginning for Mortal Kombat, which Mortal Kombat 11 was kind of playing into that anyway, trying to bending realities, time travel, and it does get messy there. So yeah, sure, like a full-on reboot back to the beginning, I think would be a good idea for this newer one. However, leave it to Ed Boon to attempt to troll everyone, which you can see this over on Twitter. I think he was just having fun with it, but he says, for the record, we never confirmed our next game is a Mortal Kombat game. So there's a few things here. One, it did cause Injustice 3 to trend immediately, and he even looked at that and referenced it and played around with the idea that they are going to do Injustice 3 instead. And it's possible they have 2 games in development, okay? And one comes out before this Mortal Kombat reboot. Maybe they really are doing Shaolin Monks remastered or a remake or something like that. And technically, it's not a quote-unquote Mortal Kombat game. It's still under the branding, but it's not like the traditional, one-on-one or tag team kind of Mortal Kombat style. It would be sort of the adventure beat-em-up style that we have with Shaolin Monks. I think that'd be a great idea. I also think Ed Boon likes to troll people, and most likely is just trying to throw everyone off, considering we already heard in the conference call from WB CEO or whoever that, yes, a Mortal Kombat game would be coming out before the end of this year. Now we see reports from Bill and others that they have the entire title, different SKUs, there's a Switch version, so I'm thinking Summer Game Fest maybe. That seems like a good time to make the official announcement. They've worked with Jeff Keighley in the past at the Game Awards for Mortal Kombat 11's reveal, so to me that makes the most sense, or who knows, maybe they just show up one day, drop a trailer, and go, hey, we'll see you in September. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the ROG Ally, or the ROG Ally, as there was a live stream yesterday going over pricing details and launch date. Now, I will tell you, pre-orders are currently live. These are at Best Buy, so if you want to get one, I'd recommend going over it and getting that all sorted out as soon as possible, as there seems to be a lot of excitement around this because as the live stream was happening, reviews started to go live. And in fact, RGT had a review for the ROG Ally, and I just assume mine got lost in the mail or something. But I did go pre-order the Extreme model, so one way or the other, we will be looking at the ROG Ally just probably in about a month or so. But if we take a look over on Polygon, they say Asus announced that its ROG Ally handheld gaming PC will be released on June 13th. It will launch with the AMD's new Z1 Extreme processor, 512 gig SSD for $699.99, as they point out, only $50 more than Valve's like top of the line model. And considering the Z1 Extreme processor and how much more capable it is than what's in the Steam Deck, and the fact that it weighs less, the screen resolution is better, 120 hertz versus 60 hertz. There's a lot to like about the ROG Ally compared to the Steam Deck, and there is a less powerful version coming Q3 2023 as they currently have it scheduled, coming in at $600. Now, I will admit some of the reviews were more excited than others. A few didn't really seem to like the battery life, which I can get. I think it's 2 hours if you have it on performance mode, which, yeah, that's not great. I mean, the Steam Deck, if you are playing an intense game, also not great with the battery life, but you can play around with settings. You can turn it down from performance mode and probably get closer to 4 hours maybe. So yeah, we're still dealing with the battery life situation, but if it's being used maybe around the house and for an hour or two at a time, seems like a pretty good device for that. Or if you're someone who's mostly playing maybe indie titles and you like the form factor and maybe the better screen resolution and refresh rate, this seems like a good solution there. So I'm excited. I will be checking this one out next month when it does ship out, that happening on June 13th, and should be a lot of fun to see how it performs in games, then also what the internals look like. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, reviews are now in for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Are you picking it up? 64% say yes, buying it ASAP, 20% say yes, but later on when it goes on sale, 15% say no, I'm not interested in Zelda. Some were asking, oh, when's it going to go on sale? I tell you guys all the time that we see sales go live on places like GameFly, and some of the games we mark down 20 bucks even. And while this is a $70 game, I wouldn't be shocked if before the end of the year, we find a sale somewhere that's reputable that has it probably at like 50 bucks. So stay tuned there. But I did see a lot of people online who saw the review scores and were caught a little bit off guard. Maybe they're not as familiar with Zelda and how it tends to rate overall with critics. But yeah, when that 98 first went up, people were looking at that a little surprised. And they're like, well, I guess I have to check this out. Even at a 96 though, I mean, that's like top tier stuff. You don't see that very often, especially at the top of maybe something like OpenCritic, where it is the top rated game of all time for them. So I'm sure the reviews definitely pulled a lot of interest there, but I think many people were probably already set, had it preloaded, installed, bought, everything ready to go. But exciting stuff once again for Zelda fans and Switch owners today. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Shadow, who says, I got the email last night about my PS renewal coming up. I was thinking of switching from the basic to the extras, and Sony really is convincing me to switch. So I would recommend at this point the extras tier, even over essential. I think based on the content that they're now offering, which includes many of their big first party, which were $70 games at one point, just as part of the library, but also a lot of third party games. And the extra tier is almost overwhelming in the amount of games and content you have available to you as soon as you sign up. So $100 a year it's a bit easier to recommend, as opposed to premium. Even at $20 more, I just don't think there's enough value, because you're going to compare premium to extra. And it's like, is it worth the $20 more? I just don't really see it yet. Now, if they start to dive into that PS2 library a bit more throughout the rest of this year into 2024, and we eventually get to a point where PS3 games are just native, which that rumor is still going around that they are working on a native emulator for the PS3, then I think it'll be incredibly easy to recommend that premium brand or the premium tier, because then the PlayStation brand would be completely represented all the way back to the PS1, right? So it's almost there. It's just going to take a bit more from Sony, but as they continue to add to the extra, maybe they'll get to a point where they get the premium off and running. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom? What'd you think about the reviews, and are you picking it up today? And then also, what about Mortal Kombat? Do you think Ed Boon is just trolling, or do they have another game up their sleeve ahead of the rumored reboot for Mortal Kombat. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.